Okay, how'd you like those videos in week one? That should get you thinking globally, which is helpful in an international business class. Okay, so we're on week two. We're on week two. Okay, we're on week two. Going global again. One of the things that it shows on your website is that change from what used to be a global company to what currently is a global company. And if you look at those two lists, the things you're going to notice right away is the newer lead companies in the global environment. A lot of them are now technology companies. And that's one of the things you need to consider when you use references from 10 years ago. They may not be as relevant going forward today. We've got your videos there. There's a great video on NAFTA, which the administration's in the process of renegotiating. The fact of the matter is NAFTA is a great program because it allows for a more fluid transition of product between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. It creates a trading bloc, which makes it more effective, much like the European Union operates. It really helps keep costs down. Okay, so the most important thing to consider in any business class, not just an international business class, is you want to be in a market that is growing. So if you have a choice, there's a great little chart on there that has 4 colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It is better to be in a good market and be a poor operator than it is to be a good operator in a poor market. Because you can always fix your operation, you can make those adjustments, but you can't change the dynamic of the marketplace. The marketplace is going to be what it is. And so let's review how you define markets. There's this 4P program that we use in most marketing classes: product, place, price, promotion. Okay, product is actually what it is that you're offering to your customer. The place, which is really what our logistics program is about, is where you're selling it, where you're delivering it, where you're manufacturing it. Price is what you're charging, and I want to make this point. This is a really important point, so write it down. There is not a direct correlation between your cost and what the market is willing to pay for a product. And a great example, this is an iPhone. What Apple charges for the iPhone is many times greater than what it costs them to produce it. And so if they simply said cost plus 10%, you'd be paying half the price. It's what the market will bear. It's the value and utility that you create for the market. That's what sets the price. Now, that being said, if you have 50 competitors all right next to you selling the same product, your price is probably going to be lower. If you're the only person within 5,000 miles that sells the product and everybody wants it, guess what? You're going to pay a higher price. A great example of this is we purchased a little over a year ago, in February of last year, a Tesla Model 3. Now, we put the deposit in many months prior to that, not being in any particular hurry for it because we had another electric car that we were using. The lease on that car, a Chevy Volt, great car, was due in April, so I figured, well, we'll just get another lease on a car until the Model 3 comes out in the lower price model. But because we were at the front of the list, because we were on the list because my son owns one, they called in February and said, hey, we have a car for you. Now I had to pay a little more for it, but I was able to save that transition car between the Chevy Volt and when we got the Model 3. Why would I pay an extra $15,000 for the car? Well, because the utility of it to me was I didn't have to lease another car. So it saved me wasting time leasing a car waiting for the Model 3 to come out. Once we got the car, there's all kinds of utility that we weren't expecting in that car. And that's how you create value, is when you want somebody to use the product after they paid for it to feel that they really got a better deal than they originally thought. And this particular car has pretty much been pretty pleasurable for us. The cost of operation is just insanely low. The amount of time we save not having to go to the gas station. The amount of time we save getting back and forth places, because we can charge, because it has long range, we can charge it at home. We rarely have to charge it outside of our home. We can go to San Diego where our grandchildren are, we can drive around. spend the day, drive back without stopping. So the utility that they've created with that product is what's made it so popular, and that's why there's 300,000 people waiting to buy one. Looks like it went dark. Hold on a second, we've got to get our scroller here. There we go, okay. So one of the other things that you want to consider in developing in any business, not just an international business, is you want to think forward strategically about where do you want to be 3 years from now. It used to be 5 years, but we don't know what anything's going to be in 5 years now, so you really have to shorten it down to 3 years. What's the value you want to create? What type of business do you want to create? Who do you want to create it for? Who are your competitors? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? All of that goes into assessing what your market value is, economic market value. So there's a chart to the right there that I'm looking at. It's our strategic planning chart. You should click on there. Kind of explains how that all goes together. One of the things that we were talking about Tesla a little bit earlier is they had a plan, and the plan wasn't necessarily to sell cars. The plan was to impact the environment by coming up with a product that was transformable. Back in 1989, Lexus came out with their first model LS400, which we were one of the first people in Southern California to have one. It was a transformable car. There was nothing remotely close to the value that car created. The quality of the car was comparable to anything in the market, and it was about half the price of what the competition was. And so that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so when you look at foreign markets, because we're going to be familiar, you're probably like me, going to be familiar with the things that are around you. I'm pretty familiar with California because I spent most of my life here, right? But there are places that I haven't been. I've been a lot of places, but there's places I haven't been. And when I used to travel to new countries, I needed to make myself aware of the local customs, otherwise I wouldn't be able to really sell my products. And the best way back then, and still today, to learn about another country is to go to the CIA fact book. They publish, the Central Intelligence Agency publishes a book on every country, and it's available to the general public. And it tells you what the currency is, it tells you the political environment, it tells you local customs. You know, in some places, shoes are, handled one way, and another place are handled a different way. You want to know all of those things so that it makes it easier for you to integrate into their culture. The key thing about international business is you're dealing with different cultures, and you need to understand all these variances and be sensitive to them and respectful of them in order to conduct business. Okay, we'll see you next week.